what's up, North County? I'm your host, Randy Doty, and today we are talking about Paso Robles Groundwater Basin with John Tucker. John, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here.
So, hope everything's been cool.
Yeah.
Right? The weather's hot, so we're ready to rock and roll and talk about some water.
Yeah.
So
keep the conversation going.
Yeah. So we've got. There's a lot of stuff happening, and since you and Greg were on last time. What has transpired in the last, say the last two, bring me up to speed from the last 2 months up until before the last week's meeting.
Sure. Yeah. So a lot. It's a lot to keep up with, especially, this isn't my full-time gig by any means. And
well, you're doing good at it.
I'm trying. I have a tendency to stay up pretty late at night. I've always been a night owl, so this kind of occupied my evening window of available time. So
right.
I'm keeping up with it. But a lot. I'm trying to recall the last time we spoke. I think at that time we were still looking at a situation where everyone was essentially going to be a ratepayer, right? There was going to be some element of de minimis users. That's my category. That's really the lens that I'm looking at all of this through. That we would be, responsible for some financial commitment, related to groundwater sustainability under SGMA, for the state compliance, and that this local JPA was, I believe, just about to form, which is PRAGA, Paso Robles Area Groundwater Authority. So there were a lot of things that were in flux at the time, and then it moved very quickly after that. The speed at which all of this has moved is not coincidental. There are some pretty significant challenges ahead if PRAGA doesn't secure funding for operations moving forward. The outcome of Friday, which we'll talk about, really threw a little bit of a wrench in the system, but it didn't stop the engine altogether. It's still chugging along. In that they need to secure funding now because the tax implications, whether or not they can impose property taxes on property owners on the Paso Basin, that window has closed. So now they have to pivot a little bit and find another way of securing those funds. The method of which they pursued, I should say, to secure funding, got very creative after we spoke, in that they did exempt de minimis users, which is where my first rally cry when I first got involved was, hey, you can't take the victim in this scenario and pass the burden on to them. And I don't mean to be lighthearted about it, but in reality, that is essentially what it is. It's like you're talking about less than 2% of groundwater extracted, which is the majority of the property owners on the basin. The sum of all we use is less than 2%, and then somehow pass along a financial burden onto them to essentially subsidize the continued operations of the largest pumpers. Those that really don't seem to care what effect they have on the environment around us. So that initially I perceived as a victory, right? There's this announcement that de minimis pumpers are not going to be charged. That's the word, quote, that we're not going to be charged for the groundwater program. Okay, great. So I even sent out a note to all of our followers, like, hey, thanks for keeping in the fight, and this is great. It looks promising. And then within about a week or so, I dug in on some of the materials that were associated with that as they put together the rate study and other materials that they sent out. And you start seeing some interesting verbiage about that de minimis users aren't going to be charged, or I'm sorry, that we're I wish I could remember the exact verbiage, but we're essentially being charged, but the groundwater agencies that represent us are going to be paying on our behalf. So what that means, very clearly, there's no ambiguity here, is that my property, for example, the amount of water that they would be measuring through evapotranspiration, that's these helicopter flyovers, will be attached to my property as a liability, but someone else is going to pay for it for now, right? Then it's like, okay, pump the brakes.
Right.
Nope. This is, first of all, like if you want to go down that road, which I would never ever recommend, we need to actually have representation in this, right? A huge problem that I want to spend some time on today is that concept of representation. Who's actually making the decisions that affect our properties and our liabilities and our pocketbooks. So I had to re-engage. I essentially get a note out to everyone that, like, hey, a lot is unknown right now, but what we do know is that this is completely unfair, if not illegal, to run a 218 vote, which authorizes a budget and a rate study where they're going to be collecting funds that implicates us as financially liable, but defers our payment to some other agency or entity. The Prop 218 itself makes no distinction between who's paying the liability. It says if a property owner is liable, if it's taxed or fee or imposed a fee upon, then they should have either a affirmative 2/3 vote if it's a non-utility, or if it's a utility, which they were at the time looking at groundwater as a utility, which is crazy, or public service that they're providing, that we would have the opportunity to oppose the fee, so we could prevent it from passing. So it really leaves one to kind of conclude that it was obvious that de minimis users were never going to approve of this. So by deferring payment to the agencies, they felt that they didn't need to include us. So here's 4,000 of 5,000 property owners that don't get a say. And
John, is there do you guys have you guys got legal representation yet, or is this still just kind of homeowners battling right now?
It's at the de minimis level, it's homeowners battling. I've been working on some stuff. Nothing committed. More so looking at what resources at the state level and even at the local level with potential district attorney involvement. There's some significant issues when it comes to conflicts of interest. Again, disenfranchisement and some of these other things that are really like critical safeguards to preserving our democracy.
Because you would think that within the zones, within this, the area that we're talking about, there's got to be some legal, some attorneys that are being affected.
Yeah.
That would almost offer their services just to do it.
Yeah, I think there's that's a great point, and I think the problem is kind of twofold. It's a little bit of apathy, in that not a lot of people understand exactly what's happening.
Sure.
Even attorneys. I'll say, and this is why I usually a bit slow to fault politicians for being conniving and trying to figure out how to screw us over, right?
Right. Yeah.
Usually 9.5 times out of 10, it's because they've got groundwater for them is one of 100 similarly scaled behemoth projects that they've got on their plate.
Right.
They don't have the time, energy, desire. They're not paid to do the amount of research required to fully understand the topic, right? So they go along with staff. Another topic I'd love to get into, staff recommendations and consultants that are paid to continue to be consultants. All these recommendations that are given to them to make that decision easier. Again, I don't think it's evil, and I'll even say this is going to be unpopular with a lot of folks, but I know Bruce Gibson loosely, Heather Moreno very close with, all of them. I haven't seen anything that really indicates that there's some grand conspiracy here. I see people being opportunistic. I see the wrong players involved in making the decisions, and I see really a lack of understanding of the long-term implications of what can happen. You recall Debbie Arnold. That interview was fantastic. She really broke that down beautifully, right?
Right.
You have to understand not just what happens today, but what this means in perpetuity moving forward.
So this has been going on for several years. This started back in 2013, I think.
If not earlier. Yeah.
If not before that.
Yeah.
And so then it kind of went into this kind of dormant stage, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, what sparked that? What sparked the new fire?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is a little bit of a conjecture on my part, so I'll disclaim that. Don't take everything that I say as well-informed fact. It's a lot of.
Right, we should have a disclaimer. This is
the whole conversation.
Right.
Yeah, it's just my independent research.
Yeah.
But I don't think it ever really was truly dormant. I think that everyone was really happy that nothing was being done. And what I mean by everyone, I mean everyone that has financial interest in the groundwater below us, right? All the while, since 2013 and prior and since, individuals, some folks have lost their access to groundwater and had to spend lots of money to go deeper, right? And figure out other solutions to get water. I know them personally, but the people that are monetizing the water and those that are doing it at just grotesque levels, which we could talk about, we're fine doing absolutely nothing. So we're paying, all the money to get the consultants to figure out all these plans and wasting all this time, millions of dollars that they didn't have to pay, right? The state was paying. The state paid for all of it. All the GSP or groundwater sustainability plan development and all this was all coming from state dollars, taxpayers at large, funding this, and we can continue to squeeze every ounce of water that we can get out of the ground, make infrastructure plans of our own and have completely unchecked profitability, right? What changed is the funding gets cut off. We have a GSP that was developed over the last 10 years, and someone's got to pay for it now because the state's funding ends this year. So
got it.
Yeah. So now we have to figure out who's going to pay to continue.
So they want to still carry on with their, money bag.
No question.
And so now it's like, okay, so where do we get the money from now?
Yeah. And how do we do nothing, right? Minimize the amount of money that we have to pay. We know we're going to have to pay something, right? I'm being facetious, right? But we know we're going to have to pay something because we have to keep the state at bay. That's the big warning. The boogeyman, as I called it at the meeting, is like the state's going to get involved, right? What can we do to keep the state from getting involved while doing absolutely nothing to fix the perceived problem? Again, whether or not there is a crisis level groundwater situation, I don't know.
John, you kind of jumped into this. I mean, you don't have any prior, you weren't on the debate team, or you weren't in government. You weren't any.
A little bit. I've always been involved in local politics, at least at a community level.
Right.
Mostly independently, kind of lone wolf. Kind
of understanding what's happening around.
Yeah, and things that affect me. I do have a formal education in political science from UCLA. I got a bachelor's degree in American institutions, so a pretty solid understanding of
So you're really opening the big textbook right now with this whole groundwater thing.
It's the next thing, right? It's just the next example of why our government was designed the way that it was, and how if we don't audit it and keep it in check, it will always, right, expand its reach and power. And we just need to, my stance is we always fight that, even when it's something for the better.
Right.
Maybe it has the best of intentions. No, it's always going to be worse.
Right. I mean, you always hear government always overreaches.
Yeah.
It's like, keep it simple, keep it, manageable, but don't overreach and don't take away from what, that's the world that we live in right now.
Exactly. Yeah. We're not going to fix the evil of the world, the evil of man. I'm a Christian. I believe that, we aren't born good. I don't believe that. I believe that we're born bad, and that in the world, in all of history, all of human history is an example of that. And I don't look to government to fix that. Government can't fix that. In fact, you have evil men ruling over evil men, and that's not going to be a solution. So I don't put my trust in government, for any problem that I have. I think the minimal amount, the better. I consider myself, just for some more context, would be categorized as a right libertarian, meaning, limited, very, very, very limited government, but just enough government to protect our core, constitutional, natural rights. Life, the ability to have property and protect my family, these basic rights. That's the extent of government that I believe that we should have. Obviously, there's so much nuance to that. You have social services. There are things that I think that we need as a society to preserve those that are indirect. Access to groundwater. The perfect example, the protections that I would look from government is to preserve my access as a property owner to groundwater and prohibit someone else's ability to take that away from me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So John, so you guys did, I know, just again, this is such a complex issue right now, right? There's many, many moving parts, and there's many channels, and somebody really has to spend a lot of time, like yourself and Greg and Debbie, that really understand the effects of what's in play right now.
Sure.
And so most people don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
And so I know over the course of the last, month or two, you guys have sent out flyers. You guys have, knocked on doors.
Oh, yeah.
Ballots has went out. People were complaining that they never got their ballot.
Yep.
So does that seem like it's just, it's a coincidence, or does it seem intent that they're not getting the information that they need? in the timely manner, because I know
Yeah.
there was a meeting,
Yeah.
not last month, but the month or two before, that there was a vote that needed to happen.
Yep.
And so, and a lot of people weren't getting the information, maybe times, whether it's location, whatever
Yep.
it may be.
Yep. I don't know that I would make the leap to there being conspiracy behind that. I will make the leap absolutely confidently full in on there being complete incompetence. The people that are managing this whole process, they're not doing a good job at it. I don't know that it's intentional. I do know that, to your point, there have been like numerous property owners that have reached out to me, and I'm not the guy for this information, but about, not receiving their ballot information, but then it's showing up on the website that their property is supposed to be included, or vice versa. There's so much of that. And I will say, like, when it comes to meeting notifications and these kinds of things, everything is down to the last minute on this whole deal because of the funding, right? So they are rushing.
So they're time pressed.
They are rushing through every step of this, and it's unfortunate that they got to this point. It's also not my problem,
Right.
That's bad management. I mean, I'll just say it. But you have to fall back on one very obvious fact, and I don't mean any personal ill will towards this individual, but the chair of PRAGA is not a representative that a majority of people on the basin have chosen, or that even a majority of people in the area had chosen. That's the founder and owner and principal for a private equity hedge fund, essentially for Vineyard Properties, right? That represents Harvard Group and others. These largest, the largest extractors, right? Is the chair of the board that's running all of this. So you can start by assuming there's a critical flaw, a problem here. This isn't someone that was that we chose to represent us in making this decision that affects all of us. That's just a fact.
So what would be, and this is just a simplified question. So you, knowing, everything that you know, backside, inside, what would be a simplified solution? I mean, if somebody says, John, how do we fix this? What do we need to do?
Yep.
Like, what would be a simplified solution?
That's a tough one because I will say, like, the best solution today is not necessarily the what I would have said a few months ago, right? Right now, I think the critical thing that everyone needs to understand is that the JPA, PRAGA, needs to not secure funding. PRAGA has to dissolve. If they don't get funding, they can't continue to exist. There's many reasons why that is. They actually have to have an operating budget.
And that's what this time crunch is for.
Yes.
So, I mean, literally, the end of August or we're in August, right?
Yeah.
So the end of August, it may or may not dissolve.
Yeah,
based on
that's
funding?
why, like, in the very same meeting, Friday was fascinating for so many reasons, and disturbing, especially for someone that really bleeds politics and, like, what's best for, like, our protections, in a democracy, like, to witness in the same meeting when voters overwhelmingly, the small number of voters that were allowed to opine on the subject overwhelmingly said, this is not right. We don't approve the budget. We don't approve the process. We don't approve any of this. This is all wrong. In that very same meeting, the next agenda item was, okay, we know that you don't want to do this, but here are 3 other ways that we can still do it. And in those recommendations from staff, each one of them has the likelihood of voters turning this down. It's not even about taking the best route that's more likely to have the most support. It's about what they can squeeze by and what legal loopholes exist so they can continue to do it. It's completely fundamentally flawed. This is not something that everyone wants. So the best thing, from my perspective, and I think Gray Wall and others would agree, is that you can't allow PRAGA. In fact, Debbie Arnold said this very bluntly. PRAGA can't be allowed to be funded. They should never have been allowed to have been formed. There's a number of reasons why. That still probably could be legally challenged if someone.
Is this is the new group that was formed
Yes.
like 5 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, so John, so now we're going to jump into the meeting happened Friday, right? So, how many people in attendance do you think on guesstimate?
There was at least 100. Well, the Tribune posted that there were more than 100. It was standing room only in Paso.
10 o'clock.
Chambers.
10 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah, 10 o'clock on a Friday. Had to
Okay.
take time off. Yep.
Intended Zoom, intended online viewers, inputters that could partake in the
Yep.
meeting. And what happens next?
So frustrating. So I had invited almost 800 basin property owners that are in our group, and I know that some of the other groups that operate in Gray Walls and others, had invited a lot of folks. But I sent out the meeting Zoom information, even an explanation that, like, I understand you may not be able to get out of work, still put it on if there's something that piques your interest. Definitely take advantage of public comment. And then also, here's how to explain to your manager if you need to take the time off to make it.
Right.
But understanding that, it's the middle of the day on a weekday. And so, we were banking on a lot of people getting visibility on the decision being made by four people for the entire future of this basin for 5 years at least. I wanted there to be good visibility on that. Meeting starts right in the very beginning of the meeting. Someone hijacks the meeting. It's being displayed on screen, and they do a screen share, indicating it was an admin access hack of some kind, and shared some pretty atrocious materials, Nazi symbol, N-word, in a video, pornographic video. Right there on full display, and so Taylor Blakesley immediately shut it down, and I have to give him credit. He issued a very sincere apology to everyone. It's not necessarily his fault, but it happened, and the whole meeting.
So everybody that was in there almost felt like at the beginning, like conspiracies, conspiracy theories, the whole 9 yards.
My mind went there pretty immediately. I spoke on the topic, the first window of public comment, and expressed my frustration, and I kind of leaned into this just being really coincidental that it happens, and unfortunately, everyone in the room, we're the only ones that make this decision, or that get to tell the people that are representing us, what we feel. And
but you said you apologized. You kind of went a little hot.
Yeah, I went to Taylor afterwards. Yeah, and I exactly. And I don't want to point anything personally at him, but I did send a note a couple days ago about asking him, first of all, for the recording of the meeting, because they did indicate that it was still being recorded. Hopefully, there's a lot that came out of that meeting that I'd like to make available to folks. But and then, is the county actually doing anything about this? Because this is not the first time this has happened. In fact,
that's what I was going to ask. Was this only directed towards this subject or other stuff?
This has happened around the county. It's
multiple times.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we all have Zoom accounts or Google Meet and all these services. And when's the last time that you've had to deal with that? Security's pretty tight nowadays.
Right.
So if it's an admin account hack, is someone in the county either deliberately
compromised somewhere,
or compromised, or maybe sending information out in a method that's not secure? These are things that we deal with in the private business, right? I mean, our company, we do that. We go through training for these types of things, how to securely pass along information. So I would love to know that the county is actually trying to figure out who did it, who done it, and how we're going to keep it from happening again. And I had no response, like every email that I've sent on this whole topic.
Do you think that if they had the meetings later in the evening, there would be more
100%,
attendance?
100%.
Because there was a meeting that was at like 6 o'clock, and it was just like people were parked down the road. It was standing room only.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That was how I got involved. Was the original town hall they did out of the Culinary Arts Academy back in December, and that one actually was. I mean, it was what I want to say 5 days before Christmas. It was the worst timing in that regard, but it was at least after hours.
Vacation time, yeah.
Yeah, at least it was after hours. So, at the time, I didn't even know how significant this issue was, until attending that and talking to a few folks in the room, and then red flags are going up like, holy smokes. This is jacked up as a property owner. Like, this is going to plant some pretty bad seeds.
But you had input on Friday. So, and people can get up and express their concerns, ask questions. And so did the majority of them, did a lot of people stand up and talk?
Yes, tons of people stood up, which was awesome to watch. I have to say, this is my first time, and I've been involved in a lot of council meetings, special meetings, both here and back in LA, where I'm from. It's my thing. I find it fun in a weird way, which is wild, but I love being a part of that process. It's civic duty, right? This is the first time in all of my experience where it was 100% unanimous opposition. There wasn't a person in the room that either spoke or that I had spoken to that was even remotely in favor of anything that those four people up at the front were hawking.
Have you ran across anybody that is in favor of this?
Yes.
I mean, other than the people that are on the sitting in the chairs.
People on the board, there's a few people that were involved, in some of the earlier groups, the cooperative committee and others that kind of got us to where we are today.
And I'm sure, I mean, you seem like a person that would, talk to them and,
I'll talk to anyone that'll talk to me.
Change my mind.
Absolutely.
And do they offer anything that you go,
yes,
that makes sense?
Yes, 100%.
Huh, yeah, like what?
There's a lot of it that makes sense. The state's, that threat of the state, that's a real thing, right? We can't ignore the state of California is right. Like they want as much control as anyone, and there's no question about that. There's if we don't find a solution, then I believe that there is a risk of that. I don't believe that the majority
they'll take over.
Yeah, they'll take over. And they'll fix the problem if we don't. And I have not seen any documentation or reason to believe that any of the 4,000 people that own property on the basin have anything to do with the state getting involved. The only examples that I could find of the state getting involved in trying to fix this problem is looking at the egregious pumpers, right? The ones that are sucking the basin dry for profit, right? I don't necessarily think that's such a horrible thing as like, if you guys can't fix this. Now, I would never recommend the state get involved. I mean, I'm a small government guy, but I think there's more fear of that by the people that have been abusing things than there is from anyone else, including I'd say smaller farmers and stuff. I mean, I think that they're very realistically going to be looped into all that, which is unfortunate. But that's why I think all of this has been just keep the state at bay, do the bare minimum, kick the can down the road, waste a ton of money in the process.
Right.
And then now, how can we continue to waste money without making any changes and keep the state at bay? Same goals,
So what is the overall result that you guys want? Like right now, like you have one wish.
Yep.
What is it?
Whew, yeah, that's a good one. So for us to actually have honest discussion and open discussion on this topic, right? Do we actually believe that there's a crisis? The actions of everyone that's involved say no. And I mean, the board and even staff, and
we're talking about the water amount.
The water amount,
right.
Our access to groundwater, right? Now, no one, would question that there are many folks that have lost access to their well water. It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. I bought my property knowing that that's my responsibility. And what I mean by treating groundwater, sustainability and access as, is this a real problem? Is why do we continue to appropriate as much water as we do out of the basin and grow the amount that we're doing, right? Like Paso Robles.
Right.
You cannot ignore the fact that they are extracting more water year over year and approving more developments that are using water that's pumped out of the basin. These are appropriators. They're not property owners above the basin that are supposed to have primary use and rights. And then so you have one seat of the four is an individual who I have a lot of respect for, but that represents the water appropriators, right? So that's one. Stick to the rules that you have, right? The county. Okay, so I just came across do you know what a negative declaration is?
No.
So the simple definition is essentially like an environmental impact report, right? Like if someone wants to do something with a property, if there's any hint of there being some type of environmental, and this doesn't necessarily mean like green environmental, but I mean like even like noise levels for adjacent properties or anything, right? Then they may be subject to doing like an environmental review, which can be an expensive process and takes time and money. So a negative declaration is essentially a document which says that we've reviewed, planning has reviewed, the state signed off on. Like there's really no significant environmental impact to what is being proposed. So we issue a negative declaration, and you can proceed with planning permits, all that kind of stuff to do it. So I come across a document from I'm going to keep names out of this, but a vineyard in Shandon. Newly developed and expanding wildly that went for 240 workforce housing essentially on the property. So it's zoned agricultural. They want to put a bunch of 240 houses on their 36,000 gallon water tank, and wow. It will support the continued expansion of that, right? And there's a negative declaration. This is from 2021. this is after the state, designated us as critical level, water crisis. And my property, I've got 7 acres, no irrigation whatsoever. We have like 3 mint plants on the side of the house. And I can't subdivide that property because of water. My property, the last time we spoke, I don't remember, but it was pouring rain. Mm-hmm. And that night, in that one night, 2 years worth of my water use was put back into my property, just in the borders of my property. 2 years in one night, right?
Wow.
And I cannot subdivide my property because of water. But we got 240 folks moving onto an agriculturally zoned property, right? So is it real or is it not?
It's crazy.
It's
insane. And you talk about growth. You talk about like the development. You talk about now we have this water battle. We don't have enough water, okay? But yet we keep developing. We keep, putting up buildings and putting up, housing tracts, and we put, just crazy amongst crazies. So, and then, like you said, you can't subdivide your property because of the water.
Yep.
So it's almost like, do as we say, not as we do.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
100%. And those are the very same people that are saying that are the ones that are deciding what's happening with our groundwater. If we let them. We have a chance to not let them. We do. It's a hard fight, especially now that the JPA is formed. But we have that opportunity. That's one place that I will depart a little bit from what Debbie Arnold had said on here, is that, because in her mind, which is essentially true, is that there's no representation on the PRAGA board for a lot of folks. I'm in the county GSA. I have no representation on the PRAGA board. Bruce Gibson is not in a district that we ever got to vote for. So our one representative on a board of 4, it does not directly represent us. There's no accountability. All of us can believe that he's doing a terrible job, and we don't even have a vote in that matter.
So would you take Friday as a victory?
It's a step in the right direction. The biggest victory, I will say, is the numbers, right? Is that, and I think that we're overwhelmed. It was awesome to watch. I have to say, it was awesome to watch that many people, even though it was a small set of folks that could attend in person. There with a unified front. Unified message, just completely lambasting this thing, and it sent a strong message. I hope they're ready for the next message, because when they start exploring those 3 alternative funding mechanisms, there's going to be some surprises.
So what's the rebuttal when all these people? I mean, you literally have the whole room against. Mm-hmm. You have 5 or however many people up there on the board, 4. What's their comeback? There was none. That was another thing that was pretty crazy about it. I will say Jerry Ray, Shandon Water District. Is it Shandon? No, I can't remember if he's a Sterling or Shandon. Forgive me. But Jerry Ray, he was the only one that really opined at all on, like, at the end of the meeting, like, this is very clear, like, we missed the mark big time. He kind of threw an olive branch and said, we kind of need to start anew here, figure out how we can make this more collaborative, more educate the public more on the benefits of why we need to do this and all that. So there was some of that from Jerry at the end, but in terms of like directly addressing comments that were brought up in that, there was nothing. Well, and you got San Miguel that they pulled out of it.
Yeah,
they're like,
that's a big problem.
We're done.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
I don't mean that as a problem that they did. I mean, it's a problem for the process. Yeah.
Right. So, but it almost set like a precedence of like the towns, that, that's we can pull out of it if we want to. Where, San Miguel said, there's not enough information.
Yeah, unfortunately, they can't pull out of it if they want to. So San Miguel did it right by not joining to begin with. They had to sign a document.
Gotcha.
They had to sign a document which makes them essentially, the whipping boy of PRAGA financially. So I don't have all of the details behind that, other than my understanding is that all of the agencies that participate now are legally obligated to pay for what PRAGA approves for a time period. I think that's through like this year. If this thing falls apart, then everyone goes their own ways.
So what's next? What's next in this whole gamut of mold, junk? I
would like to see, I don't know if this is realistic or not, I mean, a boy can dream, but I would like to see like an alternative leadership group. So I was kind of joking with my wife. So you have PRAGA, you should have PRAGNA, like non-authority, right? Like this is the Paso Robles area groundwater non-authoritative group, but it's de minimis users, maybe a
I
couple
mean,
representatives.
isn't that what you guys are now anyways, really?
Yeah, but we're still very disjointed. That's been one of my goals, is to kind of get all of the information from even like the the legal challenges that are taking place that I know Greg is associated with Steinbeck's and all that. Pick information from all these and communicate them. I can't do that by myself in perpetuity. It's killing me. But so I would like to see there be us taking our own challenges and problems on our own. And but that starts with PRAGA's got to go away. It has to go away. Mm-hmm. Again, no ill will towards any member of it, but the chair, representing private equity and the most egregious pumpers, is a problem.
I mean, it makes more sense for the owners, the homeowners, the property owners, the well owners, to manage their own. It's like
100%.
Your family as a kid, and somebody comes in and over minds your dad or your mom and tells you, and it's like, why can you do that? So it's like, it makes sense. It's like, get the heck out of here.
Yeah, that, and then also like there's small town solutions, right? I mean, I get it that you can't. Once the government gets involved, everything gets worse, right? Like you have like prevailing wages and all these like things that prohibit good governance and good decisions, right?
Everybody's got to get paid something.
Yeah, exactly. So get out of here, right? Like just you guys go away. Local solutions, right? We don't have to, if we address this locally, we don't have to have like equitable amounts of payment based on consumptive use and this kind of stuff, right? I have an example. I'm going to not use the individual's name. You may even know him. That lives in Paso, and I love this story. I don't think this necessarily can apply to everyone, but lived in Paso for decades. Vineyard opens across the street, literally. Vineyard opens across the street that very year that they open operations, start irrigating, their well goes dry, right? He walks across the street, talks to a couple folks there, figures out who manages that vineyard, has a sit-down conversation with them. It's not threatening. It's not like, oh, I'm going to sue you, anything like that. Sit-down conversation with, hey, like, I've lived here forever. Everything was fine. You guys move in, and now I'm looking at, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to fix this problem. Is there anything that you guys are willing to do about that, right? They came up with a short-term solution for them to deliver water to his place. I don't even know if that's legal, so that's why I'm going to keep all names out of this. but there was a solution of ensuring that he had water while they figured out this thing. That's a very small example, but something that easily I think could be applied is like just local conversations. No one had to look at like, well, did this vineyard pay, did they pay more than, or this property owner pay more than this property owner for that problem? Who cares? Right? If you can solve the problem, they can dig way deeper and have far more water than the residential property owner across the street, right? Like those conversations should be happening.
So what would you think, like right now in time, where it stands, all the the meetings, all the resources, like how much money has gone into just the talking part of this?
It's millions. I don't know the exact number, but it's millions. I can tell you right now, when the treasurer Jerry Ray in the last meeting presented the status of PRAGA, they're $250,000 in the hole today. They haven't even done anything, except for just the 218 vote itself, which was fundamentally flawed from the start, doomed to fail. Everyone did their best effort. Real quick shout out, sidebar. I've gotten a lot of people reaching out to me, like, congratulating me on the success of the 218, opposition effort and that kind of stuff. And I have to say, like, that was not me. I'm just communicating. All credit to Graywall and Murray Powell, and there's a whole group of folks that really did the grassroots work, of contacting individual property owners and all that. So, not me.
Well, Greg literally carries around a
big.
A 3-ring binder from notes and I mean just from years.
Yeah.
To where it's like this guy has literally all the in that he's not in politics.
No, yeah.
And he's literally just a guy fighting the good fight against them.
Yeah.
But it's like who wants to go toe to toe with him? And I would almost bet that he has more information than they have.
Oh, I would guarantee it. Yeah. Again, like, groundwater for everyone. You think about, Gibson, great example. I mean, I sympathize with the guy. This is a huge topic, but it's one of like the county worth of topics, right? I mean, this is just one basin.
Right. You can't, exhaust all your time and energy on one thing. So they're just getting little skims of what's happening. Greg's and you as well are, neck high in what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, the ins and outs and the whole everything around. Mm-hmm. That's so crazy. That's so crazy.
But we need. I mean, I think every city town needs a guy like Greg.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because you have to have that counterbalance. And I wanted to. So I heard something on the radio. It was like three or 4 days ago. So Scott, can't recall his last name. Used to be Scott and Andy in the mornings on KVEC. Has his own evening program now, where he highlights Central Coast businesses or political folks, politicians. He had Heather Moreno on there the other day, and again, I like Moreno. I've known her for quite a while. I own a house in Atascadero and have been involved in some stuff there. And but she made a comment, which to me is like, it's a perfect example of where I think the problem is. It sounds great on the surface, but it really is a problem. She was describing Atascadero, like her time as Atascadero mayor, and how I think in her words, if I can quote exactly, it was it felt like a tight-knit family, everyone at the city, right? Mm-hmm. And it was everyone, like planning and all the departments of the city. It felt like a tight-knit family, right? Red alert. That's not why you're there, right? So when you see symmetry between elected officials and staff, like we were seeing with this PRAGA effort, right, to where the 4 board members are in complete alignment with staff, something's broken. Our elected officials are there for us to audit that, because staff can do whatever they want. They can recommend things that are horrendous that we don't, as property owners, agree with. Our direct representation is there. I'm going to give a huge shout out. I know pretty controversial topic right now, and I don't know a lot of the details behind the whole Ty Lewis scandal and all that. I've deliberately tried to stay out of all that. But Chris Bausch, that is my hero in that sense. Is that he challenges staff. Every meeting I've ever been to in Paso Robles, if there's a budget discussion or, a project approval, whatever, he grills staff, and it's not friendly or fun, and he's gotten thrown under the bus for it as being like a meanie, right? That's how he's kind of labeled, is like, this guy's hostile work environment, that kind of stuff. It's like, no, it's not hostile work. Well, I don't know all the backstory with all that, but what I do know, that's not a hostile work environment. That's Chris doing the job that I, as a voter, if he was in my district, I would want him to do, right? I want to see that in PRAGA. Like, yeah, your consultants that we're paying, millions of dollars to as of now are telling you that we have to continue with this consulting. Red flag.
Right.
Grill, get the public involved, like, where is that? So the fact that there's symmetry here is a problem for me.
So John, when's the next meeting? When does what's the date that people need to remember?
We don't know yet.
Okay, so right now it's kind of last Friday.
Soon. It's coming soon.
Okay.
It's going to be another minimum notice thing, and again, this isn't some conspiracy. They are.
It's like it's today at noon.
They'll give the minimum notice, which I think for special meeting, I want to say is 48 hours minimum notice.
So somebody knows they're.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're working. They're frantically working right now to figure out how they can fund PRAGA. And again, there are 3 options. Another 218 vote is an option. If that happens, then they have to figure out some intermediary funding to get by through this year. Because again, the property tax roll is done. That route is out. They cannot attach property taxes. Awesome. Great job, Greg and Murray and folks. But then there's this Prop 26 route, which essentially allows them to, without a vote at all, impose a fee. Right, it's not a tax, impose a fee, but that can only be attached to non-de minimis, non-residential users, which limits the amount of money because the GSAs can't pay our share. There is no share to pay, so the funding is severely limited there, and it limits the what you can spend on. They can't put it towards infrastructure projects or other types of things. So it really would be the worst example of just complete waste. Just complete utter waste. It's like admin costs for admin costs at that point. So,
John, where does somebody go to get more information or be on some sort of mailer or, just stay in the loop?
Yeah, pasowater.com. It's I'm still running that. The website isn't great. Again, I don't have a huge amount of time to build, a great resource in that sense, but there's a mailing list you can sign up for right at the top of the page. I recommend heading there. Whether you agree or disagree with what I put out or what the prevailing narrative is, I still recommend that you sign up there because I am ensuring that, meeting notifications, clarity on some of the ambiguity of some of the items, that kind of stuff is being pushed out there. So you don't have to agree with me. But my number one goal is to have every property owner's contact information under one warehouse. So
and they can go there to pasowater.com.
Pasowater.com.
And they can enter in their email address.
Yep.
And then they can be notified of any special meetings, any special information, or call to actions.
Exactly. And you'll know how to get in touch with me from there. If you hate what I'm doing, great. Let me know. If you love it, okay. I'm just doing what I can to get information out there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, John, I appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
And, it's a lot of information, a lot of good information. We got a lot of good feedback from, the last couple ones that we've done. People are still, like what we talked about at the beginning, nobody really knows, what's going on or why, right?
Yeah.
And so, these things, these platforms like this really helps to serve the public, the information, because, you bring the steps in more of a simplified understanding version without all the technical and stuff that people are just going like this, and when they really have no idea what's going on, or even what you're saying.
I would say actually to that point, because Greg is a great example, right? He's just technically just a mountain of knowledge, and it's been a fun experience personally to have started in December and be working independently. I don't just latch on to what someone says as truth, right? To me, it's okay, how do I vet this out through 5 different areas, and through from December to today, navigating this whole mountain of information from everywhere and landing pretty much in direct alignment with Debbie Arnold, Greg, others that are in these groups. The aha moments are hitting left and right now. It's now that makes more sense. Now that article from 5 years ago that makes some passive reference to X, Y, or Z makes a whole lot of sense. All these things are making sense. So that again, that's just my job, is to try and distill it down as much as I can.
Well, you're doing a good job at it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So like I said, I don't think this is the last time we're going to see you here. So I think, it's going to be an ongoing, communication door, through What's Up North County. And we appreciate, coming on here and filling us in and filling in our viewers of what's happening and all that stuff.
Excellent.
So awesome. Thanks for coming on.
You bet.
Well, there you have it, guys. Hey, make sure you guys find out some more information about Paso Robles Water Basin, what's happening there. You can go to pasowater.com and, put your email address in there and be a part of the solution of what's happening. But as always, guys, we can't do this without you and our sponsors. We'd like to thank Escalar Wine Travelers Hideaway, Visit Atascadero, 805 Customs, MGP Coating, Premier Ag, Trailer Barn, Story Termite Pest Control, Borho and Auto Center, Kennedy Club Fitness, Airflow Filter Services, and Templeton Heating and Air. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time.
Hi, this is Dave Story, small game hunter with Story Termite and Pest. We're a full-service termite and pest control company. From rodents to termites, we can take care of all your pest control needs. Call today, we can tailor a pest control program that will meet your needs and budget. Contact us at 805-460-0650 or at storytermite.com. Remember, we don't have customers, we have friends.
Are you tired of looking at that worn-out concrete garage floor, patio, or porch? Look no further than MGP Coatings, where customer service reigns supreme. Our team goes above and beyond to ensure your satisfaction every step of the way. Before we even start coating, we meticulously repair your concrete, ensuring a flawless finish that lasts. And here's the best part. Our Pentec coatings are 4 times stronger than epoxy, so they won't chip or peel, making maintenance a breeze. Plus, they come with a limited lifetime warranty. Call us today at 805-952-5301 or check out our Facebook and Instagram and experience the MGP coating difference. Don't wait. Transform your garage, patio, porch, or driveway and become a part of the MGP coating family.
What's up, North County? This is Teresa Branch with Airflow Filter Service. We are a family-owned business right here in the North County. We have air filters, oils and lubricants, and hydraulic hoses. We provide services that include air filter cleaning, DPF cleaning, and waste oil collection. Come check us out at 1140 Ramada Drive, and we can help you with all your automotive and industrial vehicle needs.
Hi, this is Omid
And Deanna.
at North County Junk Removal. We are a business known for helping our neighbors and our community.
Let us help you save money and get rid of any unwanted items.
And rest assured that our professional team adheres to global standards of safety and recycling. We are fully licensed and insured for your peace of mind.
We are locally owned and operated, and we look forward to helping you with all your junk removal needs.
Please call us at 805-769-6966.
Atascadero isn't your standard getaway. We're unique, just like you. We're growing, transforming, and figuring it out as we go. We're a town filled with innovators, artists, makers, and game changers. We're a little bit country, a little bit funky, and always authentic. We're here for your good times, your slow times, and your changing times. We're all in Atascadero. Come see for yourself. Learn more at visitatascadero.com.